All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to do our next project. Still on the idea of using the iPad as if it were just a mobile digital sketchbook. And I'll show you. We'll get into some kind of fun details in a minute here to trick people into thinking you actually drew it on a piece of paper. So here we go again. I'm going to start by creating a canvas. Now let's start talking about some of these resolutions a little bit. Because my iPad is a little bit larger, it's the 12.9 inch, the full resolution on the screen, I don't think would come out at 300 dpi. I could research that a little bit. If I'm wrong about that and you know it, send me a message so that I can correct it. But what I want to do is actually create something that's kind of the size of my iPad screen, or possibly if you're an artist and let's say you want to print something out that you can put in a frame and hang, I'm going to hit New Canvas at the bottom left. And it's going to give me a choice to make my own canvas. The bottom left, I'm going to switch over to inches because we're not graphic designers. We use inches, not pixels. Width, I'm just going to make an 8-inch by 10-inch canvas. So we'll make the width 10 inches. We'll make the height 8 inches. 300 dpi, as I said before, that's standard printing size. It matches really nicely with, as I said, if you want to do an 8 by 10. Let me also say that if you want to go really, really, really big, you can do a 24 by 30. I'm not even sure where you would print that, but it'll go all the way up to 24 by 30, but you only get one layer at that size. And having layers, as you'll see coming up here, is a really nice feature. So you can make quite a huge file out of these things, but I love just the 10 by 8 by 300. Let's just name it an 8 by 10. And when I hit done, it will just open it up automatically for me. Now notice that there's a little bit of room on the sides. There's a little bit of black space. So it doesn't quite fit the proportions. And I want to show you, I'm going to pinch zoom with my thumb and my middle finger. Pinch zoom is the same thing that you can do on your phone. I think everybody's kind of knows how this stuff works. If you decide that you want to work on this thing at an angle, sometimes you get into a little drawing spot that's a little bit tough to reach and you don't want to spin your iPad around. This is a really nice way. You can work on something this way and test it out upside down. So I'm just pinch zooming in and out with my thumb and my middle finger. And now I'm just going to bring it back. To get it to kind of snap into place, if you just let go, I'm sort of letting go of it really fast and it snaps to the closest available spot. So I'll just set this kind of in the middle here. All right, now I want to make, I don't really like drawing on this white surface. It feels, even on pencil on paper, I'm not a huge fan of drawing on like typing paper. So I've got a couple of ways around this, and one of them is pretty neat. I'm going to go up on the right, upper right next to the color picker is two little squares. That's called the layers. We're going to get into really deep detail in this in the next couple of days, but for now I'll just show you kind of what it is. If I hit this layer button, and now you see how it says background color on the bottom, I'm going to tap the background color and it's going to bring up my color wheel again. And now I'm going to choose, I want just kind of a little bit of a yellowish paper. So I'm going to move my outside over here, and right now it's white because this selector's here, but notice how like as I move it around, the color of the paper changes. And so now you get to save money on all those expensive colored paper pads. My favorite is something right around here, just kind of a cream color. And now if I tap the face of the iPad, it's ready to go. And now when I draw on this, that feels so much more like how it looks when I'm drawing on a regular sketch pad. And it really, for those of you who are going to be using this like in a coffee shop, that's the best thing to do with this is go to a coffee shop and sketch people, or take it to your life drawing class or something like that. And I can, if I don't like that background color, I can still change it. It seems like it's a little bit too yellow for me. I want just a little bit less. I'm not sure how clear that's turning out on the recording, but I just moved it a little bit. It may look very bright white. I moved it just a little bit to off white. All right, what's next here? So I'm gonna tap the undo redo again. We talked about that I can test out. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I guess I do kind of like the yellow a little bit better. But let's try this experiment here. You guys all, anyone who's been to art classes, drawing classes, you do this thing where you draw the shadow with the dark, and then now I'm going to select a white pencil, and you can do the highlight with the white. This is pretty handy, and it's really nice for working on value studies. So if I change the color of my background to something like a medium gray or something, and let's load the brush with some black. This is a great way to mess with those value studies. And frankly, when we get into the thumbnail section tomorrow, when we're talking about thumbnails, this is a really great way to do your little value thumbnail sketches. So up there next to the brush, I want to talk about these other tools now. Here you have an eraser. If I tap on the eraser, now I'm going to tap on the eraser again. Don't get overwhelmed here. Tap on the eraser again, and look, it's going to give me all the choices I had with my brushes, but now it's going to be with my eraser. And all of the different tools have that kind of a feature. I'm sorry, all these tools on the upper right have that sort of feature. So I can turn my eraser into a oil pastel shape, into a little 6B pencil shape. I prefer this Nico Roll shape, and it's over in painting. I moved an extra one. It actually lives over here in painting. And Nico Roll is kind of the other really great brush that's in Procreate. And so now I tap on the eraser again. It's loaded with this shape, and you can see this little cursor. So it's a really nice, like, it's kind of sharp. You can get in there like a kneaded eraser, and all of the sliders on the left, they apply too. I can get a huge eraser if I just want to wipe everything out. I can get a tiny eraser if I've got like little sort of detail stuff that I want to do. I can make it more transparent, more opaque. And so if I make it kind of a big transparent, it's like just going over it with a very light eraser. And if I push harder, because I have pressure sensitivity, it goes over it with a lot more force. Okay, while we're here, I want to do one little adjustment to show you guys. Oh, you know what? Let's skip that one little adjustment. We'll just go, that'll take us off the rails. So you understand the eraser. Now the smudge tool, this is what it sounds like. It's like you're using your finger to kind of smush the drawing around, or a tortillon or a stump, they used to call it when I was in art school. So same deal. I can choose, if I click on it again, I can choose the quality of the shape of what I'm pushing around. And I love this. Shading graphite, so far for me, does this the best, because it just feels very similar to using some kind of tortillon or some kind of, like we used to have these cloths, these little graphite cloths that we'd use. And so now if I go over the top of it, I'm going to push really hard first just to make it kind of extreme. So you see how I can smudge it, as it's almost like it was in pastel. If I do it a little lighter, I can just get some kind of lighter effects. And again, this applies the brush size over here on the left. If I make it really big, you can see that my cursor is huge. If I make it really small, you can't see it at all probably. If I go really hard edge, it really shakes it. If I go very soft, you have to push really hard on the pressure sensitive. So that stuff's all adjustable. Now this is a pretty interesting technique, because you notice how if I just draw something, you know, it looks a little bit digital still, because it's sort of, you know, it's got such a sharp edge. My suggestion, and I'll show you how to do this in the next lesson a little bit faster. As you're drawing, periodically grab that little smudge tool and just kind of smudge around it. And what the effect that has is your hand, your palm is kind of dragging through the drawing as you're working. And so it kind of convinces everybody that it's a real drawing. Now, later, maybe we'll talk about whether it's good to try to trick people into thinking these are not digital images. I think you got to tell them that they're digital images. But there's part of the fun of this is having it behave like a real sketchbook. And then I can kind of erase. Oops, got a big one there. I chose my eraser. I can erase that little side just like I would working on a drawing. Now, you may be asking that your eraser does not have this cursor. This is one of the preferences. I'll show you where to get it. Go to the Actions menu on the upper left, the wrench, tap on Preferences, and you'll see right there in the middle of the first group, brush cursor, right here. If I turn that off, I don't see the cursor, and you don't see it either, so you don't even know that I'm drawing on it right now. But if I click on for the brush cursor, it's super handy, especially with an eraser, because you can kind of just dive in, grab right where you want it to go, and it sort of twists around as you move the pencil as well. So when we come back, we're going to do a little bit more sophisticated version of this background color, and we're going to start getting into some colored pencils.